Welcome in, everybody, to At the Book here on bet.nola.com, brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook. Zach Ewing alongside Jim Derry and Tim Jackson, who is at the book at Caesars Sportsbook inside Harrah's Casino, New Orleans, here on this Thursday afternoon. Apologize for those of you expecting us at 4. We had some technical difficulties, but we are here, and we are ready to rock and roll on another big weekend of football action, at least in the NFL. There are some college games. It's more of an NFL weekend. It begins tonight in Minneapolis. The Vikings facing the Steelers in sort of one of the old famous black and blue bowls in NFL history. And the Vikings 3-point favorites in this one. Over under low, but maybe not as low as you'd expect for a game like this, 43.5. Big news this morning, Dalvin Cook expected to play for the Vikings just 11 days after separating his shoulder and being carted off for Minnesota. Jim, what you got in this one for us?
Well, I apologize because I think it was my big bucks picks that caused the technical difficulties. So I'll blame it. You can blame it all on me. I love the Vikings tonight. I did before I heard about Dalvin Cook, and I certainly do now. I just don't think the Steelers are very good. Just because they won last week, they found a way to win. I've been saying it for weeks. This Steelers team is having a really tough time figuring things out, and I know they need the game as much as the Vikings do, but the Vikings are in a position now where they have to win, and or they're going to be out very soon. They'll be in desperation mode at home. I love the Vikings tonight. I think they win by a touchdown or more.
I disagree with you, although the Dalvin Cook news gives me a little bit of pause. I don't like Pittsburgh either, but I also don't like Minnesota. Minnesota's defense has a reputation of being pretty good. It's not that good. Adam Thielen's out. Their passing game is not going to be that good. It's honestly, with Dalvin Cook back, it's probably a no play for me. I still put it in my big bucks picks as Pittsburgh just for a couple of units, but I'm not in. I just don't like either team. What say you, Devin?
Well, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're playing a lot better as of late. Their defense has played really well, and they really shut down Lamar Jackson. I like the Steelers in this game. I think the Vikings, they're pretty unpredictable in terms of how they're going to play week to week. I mean, this could be the week they come out and blow out the Steelers by 30 just because of how they've been playing this season. They played down to their competition, but then like teams like the Packers or some of the better teams, the Bengals, they play up to the competition. But I think they play down to the Steelers. Steelers are kind of that just good enough to win games type of team. They're not going to be a serious threat in the playoffs, but I think the Steelers find a way to pull this one off. And knowing that it's Big Ben's last season, I think they have a little extra juice since hearing that news.
That just means they got to carry Big Ben a little bit further across the finish line. That's what that means.
Yeah, they have to carry him because he can't walk.
That's right. You are watching At the Book on bet.nola.com. We're brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook. We'd encourage you to go download the Caesars Sportsbook app today. You can go do that by going to NOLA.com/Caesars and get your $100 free bet bonus when mobile betting goes live sometime around the holidays. Not sure exactly when yet. Still waiting on the Louisiana State Police to figure out all of the geofencing and all the other things that they need to do. But we do have a big show for you today. We'll talk a little more Steelers-Vikings on Thursday Night Football. We'll talk to James Carville. We've got Army-Navy. Those of you who have commented about the Saints, hey, tell us something good. Say something good. The Saints are playing the Jets this week. That's a good thing for the Saints. We'll talk about that. There hasn't been a lot of good news for the Saints. And then we'll also play Big Bucks, where I actually am starting to have to do the math to make sure Jim's not spending more than he's got left in his account, which I didn't think was actually going to happen this year.
Well, I've always been good with debt. So, if I go into debt, I'll just figure it out and, we'll go from there,
Well, I don't know if we shove people in trunks for big bucks debts, but we're getting to that point.
I've had a chat with Guido, and everything's okay right now. The lead pipe is left in his trunk. We're okay. So as long as that happens, we're good.
The phone is starting to ring, so you just that's when you start to get worried. Yeah. All right. Well, let's speaking of the phone ringing, let's go to our call with James Carville today. Nick Marsh says you're gonna need, man. They're piling on. You're gonna need a big truck. They're piling on Jim Derry today.
I'm gonna have to take Uncle Big Nick off of Datitude. That's who that is. So he keeps his stuff up. He's gonna be out.
Now listen, Uncle Big Nick. It's in your name. It's your Big Nick. So I don't know why you're picking on Jim here. I'm not sure.
His picks haven't been very good either, so I don't know what he's talking about.
All right. Well, let's talk to James Carville's not very big, and his picks haven't been very good either. But maybe he'll turn it around. You can play Cashin in with Carville. Make your picks against James Carville. Right now, it hasn't been that difficult to beat him, so you can win some prizes. Go to NOLA.com/cashin to play that game each and every week. You got to have your picks in by Saturday for the college games and the NFL games. Here is Cashin in with Carville for this week. Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome to Cashin' In with Carville here for Week 14 of the NFL season. Heavy on the NFL today. I'm Zach Ewing with James Carville. He checks his phone for the lines one last time here. Heavy on the NFL this week as college kind of takes the week off, except for the big game outside of New York. This Saturday is the Army-Navy game. James, I'm sure you've watched that game throughout your life. It's one of the best.
It is literally one of the best, and I love the Army-Navy game. It's just, when there used to be a huge impact on national rankings. That's not so much the case anymore, but it's still Army-Navy, which is, pretty doggone a lot of tradition there. And I'm going to take, what's the line we got?
Army minus 7.5 on that one.
I'm going to take the middies, and I was in the Marine Corps. I was born at Fort Benning, so I have dual loyalties here, but Navy wasn't as bad as we thought they were going to be this year. And 7.5 is a lot of points in a rivalry game.
That is right. My dad was a Marine who served in Vietnam, and so he was always conflicted watching the game too. It's like you just, the Marine Corps didn't have a team, so you got to pick a side.
Well, we're part of the Navy, actually.
Oh, okay. Technically, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we're part of the Department of the Navy, but a lot of Marine Corps officers get commissioned out of Annapolis. Graduation, you got a choice. You can go in the Navy or the Marine Corps. Okay. So we get see. This is my civics lesson for the day. This is my thing that I didn't know. In the Treasury Department.
All right. Before we move on to our NFL slate for the day, new LSU coach Brian Kelly, a lot of changes this week on staff. Corey Raymond is out, but he's brought in some people. Tommy Moffitt is out. I suppose with a new coach, especially one as renowned as Brian Kelly, there's going to be change. It's a little uncomfortable for most LSU fans, though, I think.
Why? You bring in a new guy, he's going to bring in his own people. I mean, it's as predictable as night following day. One of the things that just really, you hear these Notre Dame people whining and squealing and, when Brian Kelly, when they took him away from Cincinnati, did they feel sorry for Cincinnati? Did they say, well, they came to Notre Dame because it's more money, or he thinks he can win more games here? And it's really hilarious. And then, of course, Lincoln Riley going to Southern Cal, well, that's cool. I mean, if you leave Oklahoma for Southern Cal, the cool kids like that. If you leave Notre Dame for LSU, the cool kids don't like that. I think this has been something to see. And you can just see how mad they are. And of course, what do you think? All LSU cares about is winning. Well, what else does anybody else care about? Like, we're the only fan base in the country that wants to win. It's so goddamn stupid.
Notre Dame is not used to being the one left without a musical chair, I think, and that's Marcus Freeman may end up being a good coach.
Yeah, I hope both do well. Brian Kelly's going to win a lot of football games in Baton Rouge, I promise you. And, and it doesn't do anything but get harder and harder and harder.
No, that's absolutely right.
Still Alabama, Texas and Oklahoma coming in the conference. Jesus, man. Auburn probably going to shake things up here. This is one tough neighborhood we hanging around in here, but we would have it no other way.
There is no doubt about that. And we'll talk much more college football as we get into bowl season starting next week. But the focus this week on Army Navy and then on the Heisman. And then in the NFL, the Saints, for the first time under Sean Payton, have lost 5 games in a row. The good news is they get Alvin Kamara back this week. Maybe better news is they play the Jets this week. Is there any hope in your mind for the Saints to turn this around in the final 5 weeks?
I just have great faith in the Saints organization, and I think it's warranted. I mean, we've probably won more football games in the last 10 years than anybody not named New England Patriots. Or if not, we're very close. And this has been a brutal season, but I wouldn't give up on Sean Payton, not ever. It's difficult. I guess you'd say the odds are we don't, but let's see. And you're right. We play the Jets. We ought to be able to get something on it. The other thing that's so damn frustrating is the Pelicans.
Whoa.
We're not that bad. Every time you give up on them, you go, I don't know. They had a tough loss last night in overtime. I almost went to the game. I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, we're actually going in a couple of weeks, but you're right. I mean, I think it's a team that was built to play around Zion. Zion's not there. They're playing hard, but they just don't seem to get over the hump.
And they win some improbable games. The loss to Houston. I don't know. But I think I think this guy might be a pretty good coach. I'm willing to hang in there with him for a little bit.
All right, we'll see what happens if Zion can get back. Maybe they get on a roll. We know you don't pick the Saints game. Saints are 5-point favorites against the Jets. Let's get into some of our other games here. We're going to start
about that for a second.
Yeah,
You're
sure.
playing at home against a team that lost 5 in a row, and you're a 5.5-point dog.
We think the Saints are a mess. That is the definition of a mess.
Yeah. Go ahead.
All right, AFC first. Ravens at Browns. It's Cleveland laying 2.5 here at home.
Cleavage.
Take the Cleveland Browns to bounce back. Ravens have been struggling on offense. Lamar Jackson, not himself.
Yeah. Is that probably on the Heisman Trophy? That guy from Alabama is going to win it. That's not even a close call, is it?
I believe the odds are minus 4,000 for Bryce Young right now to win it. So that's all but done and dusted. That would be a shock if not. Although if he doesn't win it, it'll be the defensive player from Michigan who will be the first purely defensive player ever to win it. So that would be fun. All right, moving on. The Dallas Cowboys are road favorite here, 4-point favorites against the Washington football team.
The football team.
Take the football team, the capital F, capital T football team.
I never liked them. I lived in Washington. I couldn't stand them when I was there. And I've season tickets to the Nationals. I had season tickets to the Wizards. I just never have liked the Washington football team. But having said that, they're better than I thought they were.
They're kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, they're not bad.
All right, moving on. Big playoff battle in both conferences here. 49ers at Bengals. The line we're using here is Bengals -1. This one's actually jumped the fence to 49ers -1, but right now the line we're using is Bengals -1.
I'll take the 49ers.
I'll take the 49ers with a point. And then probably the game of the week in the NFL this week at 3:25 on Sunday. The Bills and the Bucks. Possible Super Bowl preview here. Bucks laying 3 points.
Bucks.
Taking the Bucks, the favorite there. And then switching things up for Sunday Night Football and going to a big spread. We know Aaron Rodgers owns the Bears. He said it the last time they played. This time they get them at home at Lambeau in prime time. But they're laying a big number here. Can the Packers cover 12.5?
The Bears are terrible. All right? They're just not very good. You just keep waiting for them to get better, and they don't get much better. I'm later points. Take the Pack.
All right, we'll take another favorite. And then finally on Monday Night Football, second straight real good Monday night game, this time in the NFC West. The LA Rams in Arizona to face the Cardinals. Cardinals by 2.5.
Rams.
We'll take the Rams on the road there. What's your take on bowl season? Too many bowls? Not enough bowls? What do we...
There's this hilarious piece in The Athletic. And the guy was talking about all the different bowls, and he said, "You think I'm making this up? This is about college bowls. I'm not making anything up." Nah, people board watch it. They get good TV ratings and bring some money to different places. Let them play. I don't have much against it.
And it's more games for us to pick, so that'll be next week. We'll start
more opportunities to lose money, but I'm not necessarily think that's a terrible idea. Then what are 28 of them or something like that? It's gonna be like the NCAA.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's no, it may be even more than that at this point.
But as long as people keep watching it, and as long as it's the ESPN Bowl, or the Fox Sports Bowl, if somebody figures we'll pick one up and we'll go home. But as long as the top of the thing is the top four is what interests me, and I think that's what Coach Brian Kelly too.
I think you're right, and that's on New Year's Eve, and we'll get your thoughts on that. Cincinnati getting in, kind of a breakthrough for the group of five, but we'll have plenty of time to talk about that before New Year's Eve.
Yeah, and those are some big lines they got.
It is 13.5 and 7.5 for the two semifinal games.
Yeah, I don't mean they giving Michigan all those points.
I don't know. I guess we'll have a couple of weeks to think about that one.
We can noodle on that. All right.
All right, James. We appreciate it. This is Cashin in with Carville, and we'll see you next week.
Absolutely. Thank you, man.
Even for James Carville, he was in fine form today. We got some cursing. We got him calling some people stupid. We got some picks. We got just about everything from James Carville today. It met expectations.
He would fit in well on the Datitude podcast.
I will have to I'll see if I can hook that up for you. But he's
that would be fun.
He's a lot of fun. By the way, I counted. I thought it occurred to me when he said 28 bowl games that wasn't enough. There are 42 if you count the semifinal games. So 42 bowl games, 84 teams make it out of 131 or whatever there are in FBS. But listen, we watch them, we bet on them, we might lose some money on them. And by the way, Jim, you're spearheading this, but we're going to have our own little bowl pick'em contest starting next week. The first games are next Friday, December the 17th. And we'll have people pick them, and we'll give away some prizes. In fact, I think we're going to give away tickets to LSU's first SEC game next year against Mississippi State, first SEC game in Brian Kelly's tenure.
I accidentally sent that email to Devin too. I didn't really mean to include Devin Jackson in these picks because we have no chance if he's in it. So that was an accident. Devin, if you could just ignore the email that I sent out last night, we'll let you can pick with the people.
No, the problem is the people are going to have to beat Devin, which means we get to use the tickets ourselves, right?
Oh, okay. That's even better. Well, then I did mean to send it, Devin. Hurry up, make those picks.
Devin, I do want to get your opinion on Army Navy because that's the next thing we should talk about here. Listen, it's a lot of fun to watch. It hasn't been too often that both teams are good lately. It seems like one has a pretty good season, the other doesn't. And this year that was Army. I think Army went 10-2. Navy has not had, or 9-2, and this is their 12th game. Navy has not had as good of a season. 7.5 points the line. In fact, that was this morning. It's ticked down to 7 since then. And then the other thing is the over-under, 34.5.
That's insane.
Without looking, I guarantee you that's the lowest over-under of the college football season.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's as low as you can go without it being too crazy. But I'm not crazy about the over-under in this game. I'm taking the over. I do think that Army can put up points. They have shown they can do that this year. They had that crazy game against Wake Forest where they put up almost 50 points, went toe-to-toe with Wake Forest offense. And Navy hasn't been great this year, but it's a rivalry game. I expect it to be back and forth, but I could very well see that hitting the over on that point spread and it being like 23-17 or something like that. So I would take the over in this game if I were betting on it.
That is gutsy because I will tell you, I sort of set you up. The last 15 Army-Navy games have gone under, 15 in a row, and 40 of the last 50 plus a push. So, historically, however, as with any trends, the guys making the lines know that too. And so they just keep making that total lower and lower and lower. And I actually agree with you. 34.5, I can't bet the under on that. I mean, it might be 20-3, but I don't see how you can bet the under here if it's 34.5.
Wasn't it 15-0 last year?
I think, 15-0 or 16-0. I mean, yeah, it could go under. I just don't know that I'm going to put money on it.
Well, I wouldn't touch that with a stick. I mean, things that look weird, I either stay away from it or I take the side that they're begging me not to take, which is the under. So if I were to take one, I would take the under, but I'm not going to touch that. I do like Navy though, because if you look at what they've done as of late, they played much better at the tail end of the season, played real well with East Carolina, held since I think they were within a touchdown against Cincinnati. And I know Army has played well, obviously, but I agree with James Carville about rivalry games and such. By the way, my dad was an Army grad. My dad went to Army and he was in Vietnam as well. So we're butting heads again, Zach. But I got to go with Navy here. I think it's going to be a tight game. You could easily see something along the lines of 13-6 or something goofy like that. And I haven't looked at the weather yet, but I just think that's too many points to give up in this contest. Navy dominated this series for quite a while, but Army has played much better. I think they've won 4 of the last 5 or something along those lines. And so I do think Army will win the game, but I'm not giving up 7.5.
Yeah, I actually made Army, and we'll talk about it in big bucks. Army minus 7.5, my favorite pick of the week. But that was this morning, and the more I've looked at it today, I'm already starting. This is when you know you made a good bet, right? It's like you're already starting to be like, I don't know, because if it is a low scoring game, 7.5 is a hard number to cover. Like you said, maybe it's a tie game late, it's 10-10, and then Army gets a touchdown. Well, they're not going to cover 7.5 in that case. And as we know with these teams, the fourth quarter can go by real quick. It can be 13-10, and then each team's got the ball once, and all of a sudden there's two minutes left in the game. So it'll be interesting. I know one thing's for certain is we'll all be tuned in and we'll watch because it's so much fun. They're up there at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, and then of course the very next day they're going to flip that place around, and the Jets will be at home to face the Saints. And this is an interesting one too. We talked about this with Carville. The Saints have lost 5 games in a row, and yet they're 5.5-point favorites. That line is ticked up from 5 to 5.5. Alvin Kamara's back, but Mark Ingram is out. Cam Jordan could be out. Taysom Hill's going to play, but he's got the finger injury, so we don't know how effective he'll be throwing the ball. But I think the one thing we do know for sure, guys, is this: if the Saints have any hopes of going into the final weeks with playoff chances, they absolutely, positively have to win this game. It can't become 6 in a row.
We've said must win too many times this season for that to even matter. And I don't think it matters. The Saints aren't going to the playoffs, but I do. I changed my picks since Tuesday when my picks first came out. I actually put editor's note in my picks because I didn't think Kamara was going to play, and I put in there that if he did, that I would likely change my mind, and I have. When you look at what the Jets are facing, they're facing a lot of their own issues. Elijah Mitchell's probably going to be out. They're probably their top playmaker on offense. And, I mean, the Jets' defense has been good at times. They've been very sporadic. I really like Robert Saleh as a coach, and I think he's going to be a really good coach. I think the Jets will be better eventually. But it has nothing to do – it's no more must-win or any of that stuff. You can't make a handicap based on that any longer when it comes to the Saints. I just think with Alvin Kamara back, they're a much different team. It looks like either Ryan Ramczyk or Teron Armstead will play. I think one of them at least will play, which makes a big difference. We don't know about Marcus Davenport yet. It looks like Gardner Johnson has a chance to come back and play. He's been taken off the IR. So this Saints team is finally starting to get healthy, and maybe Sean Payton was looking towards last week and then this week, and I think he thought he'd probably get some of these guys back last week. It didn't happen. They got an extra 10 days off. The Saints have had a mini bye. The Jets are in, you got to think they're in don't care mode anymore, right? So I changed my pick. I didn't want to lay 5.5 before when I didn't know who was going to play, but now that we're starting to see that the Saints are a little bit more healthy, I got to think the Saints are going to play one of their better games this week. And people can yell at their phones or say whatever they want. I look for Taysom Hill to have a big bounce back week this week, and especially with Alvin Kamara back there.
What say you, Devin? Obviously, the Jets are a bit of a mess. Jim mentioned it. Elijah Moore has missed practice the last 2 days. They could possibly still play. I mean, they haven't ruled him out or anything like that, but even if he's playing, he may be limited. And you just have to like the matchup of this Saints defense against the Jets offense, and then maybe they slog it out on the other side of the ball.
The thing I worry about is that historically the Saints have struggled against rookie quarterbacks. It's been kind of that they make him look better than he actually is. I think back to Robert Griffin III, his rookie season. He had a big day in the Superdome, and a few of the quarterbacks had big days against the Saints defense. You just worry that the Saints defense won't look as good as they have been all season because of Zach Wilson, his ability to create outside the pocket. It was something they struggle against with the Eagles and Jalen Hurts' running ability. So you want to see the Saints defense be solid, especially with Wilson getting outside the pocket and making things happen. But if they're missing their top weapon, then that should go well for the Saints. And I expect the Saints to run the football a lot. I think they'll keep it on the ground quite a bit, use play action, use Taysom Hill's running ability should he play on Sunday. And I think the Saints should cruise to a win, but nothing in the NFL is ever guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, clearly right now this team's not cruising to much of anything. But this is the team you want to play. If they can win this one, then you take your shot at the Bucs next week. But really, you're gearing up for those final 3 weeks when you have 2 home games against the Dolphins and Panthers, and then a trip to Atlanta. All 3 winnable games, and if they could get healthy by that point, they have at least a shot. Which at this point, when you've lost 5 in a row, is all you can ask for. And I honestly, Devin, I don't know. I mean, what does their performance against RG3 as a rookie have anything to do with what Zach Wilson's going to do? I don't know that it's much. Zach Wilson has been inconsistent. Has he looked good at times? Yes. At other times, he's looked really bad. He hasn't been healthy either. So we'll see what happens. He is practicing in full. I'm just looking at the injury report here. Ramczyk is the one who is still not practicing, but Teron Armstead has gotten in 2 limited practices. So the Saints, I have to be hopeful that he'll be back. Same thing with Marcus Davenport, 2 limited practices. Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill, both full practices. And then they added today to the injury report a limited practice for Lil Jordan Humphrey. So an already decimated receiving core gets even more decimated if that's the case. But that's a bit of an issue for the Saints as well. You're watching At the Book on Bet.NOLA.com. We're brought to you by the Caesar Sportsbook. And we're talking a little NFL action. Going to get into some big bucks later. I do want to dive into something else that I talked to James Carville about this week, and that is the LSU staff changes. And Jim, this one's for you as an LSU graduate. Kevin Falk out the door today. Yesterday it was I'm blanking on the name now. The defensive backs, Corey Raymond, the defensive backs coach, out the door. Tommy Moffitt, the strength coach, out the door. Obviously, when you get a new coach, Mickey Joseph out. A lot of these things are to be expected. As Carville said, you got to expect some change when you bring in a new coach. That's a lot of change, and it's a lot of change of guys who have been here for a long time, even longer than Ed Ogeron.
Yeah, but I agree. I hate that I'm agreeing with James Carville because his picks have been so bad. I like his picks too. Most of them.
Uh-oh.
What does that mean? Look, I agree that the fact that every coach is going to bring in their own people. I mean, through some back channels, Mickey Joseph and I went to school together. He was a little bit younger than I was, so at Shaw, and so I've kind of followed him throughout the year. But throughout the years, it was clear to me when just hearing from back channels that when Kelly came in, it was very clear right away that he was going to bring in his own people, and most of that coaching staff knew that they were probably on their way out the door. But when you get a big name coach like this, it's not like Coach O, who was already on staff and knew these guys. And when he became coach, it's a little bit easier. Brian Kelly has nothing to do with LSU at all. I mean, from a different part of the country, doesn't have any contact with these people. So it's not a surprise at all, nor do I think it's a big deal, really. I mean, coaching staffs have turnovers every year. Look at Coach O, and just throughout his reign, how many coaches have turned over and how many different coaches they've had. And so I think we're placing a little bit too much on this. Brian Kelly is proved to be a winner, and he's going to do things his own way. And anyone that expected anything different, well, I'm not sure why you would.
And that's the thing is, like, I mean, if you trust Brian Kelly to win games, which I think most LSU fans would say they do, he's got the track record. You're paying him big money. You've got to let him run the program the way he wants to run it. It does help to have some continuity with recruiting. Obviously, he did keep Brad Davis on staff, who's the interim coach for the bowl game and the offensive line coach. So, there will be at least some holdover for recruits to have a conduit.
In fact, the word is, I don't know if this is official or not, but I mean, the word has been that Frank Wilson's going to come back to LSU.
Is Frank Wilson's back, and that's
is that official?
I think so.
I
mean,
that is a huge deal. I mean, he was a major player in getting recruits from Louisiana to go to LSU, and that not enough has been mentioned about that. So Frank Wilson coming back to LSU is a major deal, and that will really help Brian Wilson. I can guarantee you that's going to be his right-hand man there. And he'll get a lot of these guys that are on the fence, the ones that decommitted to LSU, and they haven't quite decided, the Aaron Anthony's of the world, Jacoby Matthews of the world. Those guys, that could really help in landing those guys for sure.
Let's move on here on At the Book. We'll talk some NFL. The big game Sunday is Bills and Buccaneers, and we'll get into that too. But let's play big bucks, and we'll spend some time in big bucks on those big games. Looking back, that's right. Jim's hiding his eyes. Looking back at last week's results, Devin, another. I feel strange because I'm the only one having a normal betting experience here, where I've been up and down, and I think I'm $18, starting with $2,000. I'm $18 up on the whole year. So I've basically been break even. And Devin just wins every single. He's had like one negative week, and Jim is just bleeding money. Like these are not typical results, guys.
Yeah, it's been up and down. It's been all up for me, fortunately. And I told you guys about a bad beat that went my way. The East Tennessee State game that I betted on last week, they had no business winning that game or even covering the spread, and they somehow win the game the last few minutes, scoring 2 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion on the last touchdown to win the game. So got to get a little bit of luck along the way, just like NFL season. So I'll take it. I'll take what I can get.
No, that is true. There's definitely. I mean, listen, we talk about sharp money and where the money's going, and we try to break down the games as best we can, and it is worth doing that. It is worth doing that. However, you have to have a little bit of luck, and Jim, frankly, you just haven't had much this year.
No, but I'm not going to blame it on luck. I'm going to man up, and just my picks haven't been very good. But last week you look, and here's the thing, and here's a lesson to all the people that are getting into this. We talked about how the line with Georgia, and this is the one that got me in trouble with the teaser. I thought Georgia was going to win. The line stayed at 6.5 all week long. Georgia should have been a bit bigger favorite. Obviously, now that you look at it in hindsight, they shouldn't have, because they lost the game and they got, frankly, manhandled. But there was something weird about that line all week long. The fact that it stayed at 6.5. Vegas begging you to take the Georgia to bet the favorite, the Georgia Bulldogs, and they knew something that we didn't know. And I still made it one of my bigger bets, even though I made it as a part of my teaser. The other half of my teaser was good. A lot of my NFL picks were good. I just didn't pick them the right ways. But it just goes to show that when you're breaking down games, and you have to notice these sorts of things, and when you notice them and you find out, hey, this is a value or this isn't a value, and obviously Georgia wasn't a value, and I should have just stayed away from it, but I still stubbornly went with it some kind of way. I tried to figure out a way to make it part of my pick because I was sure Georgia was going to win. I just went against what logic dictated to me after doing this for 15 years, and it bit me in the butt. And that's happened quite a few times this year why I've ignored certain signs, and you can't do that. So, I mean, I've had, kind of a mixed bag off the big bucks thing. Obviously, my big bucks numbers are terrible. And my handicapping has been so-so. I mean, it's definitely not been my best year. If you look at my NFL picks column, still above 500 for the season against the spread. But you got to notice signs, you got to notice trends, and you have to pay attention to those things. And when you make your bets, you got to put time into them and not just say, oh, I'm darn sure this team's going to win, so here's my number. And I didn't do that last week, and I deserve to lose.
We got a fantasy question real quick from Robert Mitchell. Let's go to that one. It's not the fantasy show, but we can answer this question as best we can. Should he start KJ Osborne tonight from the Vikings in place of Darnell Mooney, or wait on Mooney and use Abdullah, who's the Panthers pass catching back? You guys can chime in if you want. I think it kind of depends on your situation. Osborne is probably your safer pick there. I don't know that he's going to pop off and get you 25 points, but if you're in a situation where you just want to be safe, you're playing a lesser opponent, or you're projected to win, I'd use Osborne and take the 10, 12 points he's probably going to get you tonight as the Vikings number 2 wideout. If you're in a situation where you're a big underdog and you need somebody to pop off, maybe then you wait on Mooney.
That's a tough one, Zach, but I'll tell you this. I wouldn't risk you better be sure Mooney's going to start, because Abdullah is worthless in fantasy at this point. I mean, I've been looking at him, and I mean, he's just not going to play enough. I know obviously McCaffrey's gone now, and it is what it is, but I just don't see him getting a huge bulk load, and it's not worth the risk. I would definitely start KJ Osborne.
Yeah, I think that's the safe play there. Hey, you're watching At the Book on Bet.NOLA.com, brought to you by Caesar Sportsbook. On the topic of bets that make us uncomfortable, let's look at Week 14 best bets, because I told you, just much as you did last week, Jim, I've already feel uncomfortable with my best pick of the week here, and that's Army minus 7.5. I don't, I haven't put any of my own money on this outside of big bucks, and I probably won't at this point. I do think the projection models all say Army should be a double-digit favorite, and that's where I was thinking originally. But as you guys mentioned, number one, it's going to be a low-scoring game, and 7.5 is a lot of points. Number two, Navy's been playing better of late. So that's where I come down on that one. I am curious to hear your thoughts. And Devin, let's go to you first on the Ravens. Both of you have the Ravens here over the Browns. Is this just a bounce-back spot for Baltimore in your mind? This is a stay-away game for me, so I'm curious to see why you both are on Baltimore.
Yeah, I think the Ravens can't play much worse than they did against the Steelers, and they still almost won the game. And I just think the Browns, they're getting way too much value for what they are right now. They're a very inconsistent team, and they pretty much change from week to week in terms of whether or not they're going to be the good Browns or not. And Baker Mayfield just isn't healthy. And I know that the Ravens have really struggled as of late, but the Ravens find ways to win games, close games. I mean, last week was really the exception this season, and I really think the Ravens should be favored in this game. I don't see anything that the Browns are doing necessarily that is better than what the Ravens are doing. I do worry a little bit about Lamar Jackson. I can tell you he's definitely pressing a little bit right now in terms of trying to make things happen for his team. But I just think the Ravens are the better team, and I think they know they have to continue to win, because the Steelers are now finding a way back into the playoff mix. So I think the Ravens find a way to win this game, and I just don't trust that the Browns are playing good enough football to beat them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is something to that. The Browns clearly not playing well either. I'm not sure Lamar Jackson's healthy. I know Baker Mayfield's not healthy. Jim, you put the Ravens in a teaser here. You also have them on the money line, though, so clearly you're on Baltimore also. I'm
going to be on Baltimore every kind of way you can be on them. They've won 4 in a row in the series. They've won 10 out of the last 12. They've had the Browns numbers when they've needed a get-right game. The Browns have fit in just nicely. And here's the thing. I know, Uncle Big Nick was talking about spoiler alert for tomorrow and attitude, but Uncle Big Nick talks about how the Browns played the Ravens, had a week off, and now they're playing the Ravens again, and he thinks that gives them an advantage. I don't necessarily think the Browns. If I thought the Browns had a really good coaching staff, and they're not right. Okay, we talk about things not right with the Ravens. They have their own injury issues, but who doesn't this time of year? But I just think when it comes down to it, the Ravens know how to beat the Browns. they will beat them again. And me getting 8.5 in a teaser is a gift. I'm with Devin. I don't understand this line at all. I'm not. They're saying that the Ravens and Browns will be even on a neutral field, and I don't know how anyone could possibly think that these teams are even. The Ravens are clearly a better football team. Had they beat the Steelers last week, this line would probably be a pick 'em or something along those lines. Harbaugh let his ego get in the way. He just thought he could go get the 2-point conversion easy and get the game over with. It didn't happen. So I love it's one of my top plays of the week. And then if you look at the Broncos, getting a Lions team that not only has their own health issues, but the Broncos have been excellent against bad teams this year, especially at home, getting, an 8.5-point spread at the moment, probably going to go up. I probably won't touch the line all that much, but I do like the Broncos in a teaser to win by a field goal or more. This one, I went through the numbers, and I'm not ignoring anything. I really like this teaser a lot. Put a lot of thought into it this week, obviously, after having such a bad week.
Yeah, I hope so. It's interesting you say that the Ravens, had they won last week, this game opens at a pick. It did open at a pick, but the money came in on the Browns almost immediately. I mean, that thing moved 2 points in the first 24 hours. So, which confused me.
The Sharps, for some unknown reason, there are a few teams they love. They just absolutely love, and they will bet them no matter what. And I haven't figured it out. The Browns and the Eagles are two of those teams. They keep betting them. It doesn't matter what the lines are. They bet them early in the week. The spreads change. I just don't understand what they're Eagles, I kind of get at least. The Browns, I don't get at all. I know Nick Chubb is back to close to 100%, and they can run the football, and they actually play pretty good run defense. But to me, you throw run defense out of the window when you play against a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, because those numbers don't matter, because he's not a traditional type runner. He's going to get around, and he's going to run when he has to. And he knows how to beat the Browns. He's shown it in the past. He's done it a bunch of times. So this one seems pretty clear to me.
Well, clearly we're going to have a Browns-Eagles Super Bowl then. I mean, that's all that can mean.
Right. Yeah, that'll happen.
Don't bet on it, as they say.
Right.
Devin, let's go into big bucks. Listen, Devin picking FCS games seems in his friggin' wheelhouse. I may just go bet these two things. Like, the smaller the school, the sharper Devin is. So tell us about your FCS picks first off.
East Tennessee State, they shouldn't even be here right now. That's the basis of my pick here. North Dakota State's going to clearly win the game. They're the better program. They're a juggernaut at the FCS level. But I do think there is a potential for a backdoor cover. I do think North Dakota State will get out early, get up big early, and pretty much rest for, I believe it's the semifinals coming up next week, and get prepared for that. I think East Tennessee State, they showed they can score the ball, especially in the fourth quarter. So that was kind of the basis of that. Montana, James Madison, over 45.5. James Madison's offense has been humming as of late. And I just don't believe that it's going to be a game where it's just 45 points. And I just feel like that's way too low for this game. So I took the over in that one as well. And then a few NFL games. I have to start betting NFL. I can't avoid it any longer. But the Titans over the Jags, 8.5. I feel like that's a solid pick. I know that the Titans have struggled as of late, but there's potential they may get Derrick Henry back before that 6 to 10 week window. I think that'll kind of build some momentum for them. The Jaguars are just, at this point, they're just out there playing football. They're not. It doesn't even seem like they're going to win another game this year. So I think the Titans win by at least double digits, and that's why I took that. I took the under in the Broncos and Lions game. The Broncos defense has been really, really good this season. Lions are coming off a big emotional win. It feels like a letdown spot, and I know it's a one-win team, but I just feel like they're not going to put up that same type of performance they did against the Vikings. Then finally, I like the Bills still. Even though they lost on Monday night to the Patriots in ridiculous weather conditions, I do think they're still a good team. And I do think they're going to take the Buccaneers down to the wire, and they'll have a chance to win the game late.
Let's zone in on that one just for a minute because it's clearly the game of the week in the NFL. Well, the Rams play Cardinals on Monday night too, which is a good game. But Bills and Bucks, possible Super Bowl preview here. The Bills obviously stumbled on Monday night, but that was just such a weird game with the wind and New England only throwing 3 passes. And I mean, I don't know how much you take away from that. The Bucks have been nails at home. I bet this thing at -3. And I liked it a lot better at 3 than 3.5, obviously. Jim, you will move to your big bucks. You have the Bucks on the money line here. Tell us about that one first.
Well, I mean, the line makes me a little nervous that it's going to 3.5. So I'd rather just look. I don't see how the Bucks lose this game, and I don't trust the line. So I'd rather. This is a case where I'd rather lay the 1.71 to spend a little bit more to get what I want. But I do think the Bucks cover anyway, and something's wrong with Buffalo. I mean, you got to throw out the Saints game. The Saints were a complete mess in that game, so you can't look at that at all. But I mean, if you look at last week, what are the two Bills' big strengths? Josh Allen and their defense. Tre'Davious White's out, and Josh Allen has been average at best the last month of the season. The Bills haven't been very good, and it's time to stop believing in them. They knew. They were certain, 100% certain. Bill Belichick could have shown them the game plan for the week. They knew that the New England was going to run the football. 2 average running backs at best. I mean, Damian Harris is okay, but then he pulls up lane, and Ramondre Stevenson is running all over him. They knew they were going to run the football, and they still couldn't stop him. I mean, they made enough mistakes on their own. The kicking game was hard kicking that wind. I get it. Tyler Bass misses the 31-yard field goal, and then who knows?
Never should have tried it. Never should have tried it. I mean, it was dumb to try it against the wind.
But I think the Bills are pressing, and this isn't a place where you can go in and press. And I think the Bucks are going to go in, and they're not going to. I mean, Leonard Fournette will have enough. He'll be able to. If they couldn't stop Damian Harris, they're not going to be able to stop Leonard Fournette. And then we know that Tom Brady is on a mission at the moment. They have a slight chance to clinch the division. They're looking to get into playoff mode. And like you said, the Bucks have been fantastic at home. If this were at Buffalo and it were a pick-em game or so, I'd have to think about it a little bit more. But it seems to me pretty easy. I can't see Tampa Bay losing at home with a chance to start being able to salt things away. And so that's one of my picks of the week, obviously. And then we talked about it. I don't need to go into Ravens anymore or the Saints. I've already told you what I thought there. In my teaser. So that leaves Panthers versus Falcons. I think this is one of the easiest bets of the week to me. And a lot of the sharps are on Atlanta. I'm surprised the line hasn't changed a little bit more. But the Falcons' offensive line is horrendous. They can't stop anybody. I mean, Matt Ryan is nearly stationary. They don't have any kind of running game except Cordell Patterson, a little bit, who's really a wide receiver. And the Panthers are number 4 in the league in sacks. So I think they're going to get to Matt Ryan, and I think that Cam Newton, assuming that he's the one that's going to play on Sunday, no matter who it is, it really doesn't matter to me who's quarterback. I think the Panthers are going to be able to score. They need a big bounce back game. They're not quite dead yet, and I know the Falcons, they have the same record, but you want to talk about 2 teams with the same record who are fairly far apart. The Panthers defense much better than Atlanta's. I really like Carolina. That is my spread pick of the week.
Yeah, I actually like Carolina there too. I didn't pick it. I have to say, most weeks when you love your picks, it's like a bad sign. You're like, not talking about you specifically, Jim, just in general though. If somebody really loves their picks, a lot of times, the betting will humble you, right? Like you bet on them and you find out maybe you didn't know as much as you thought you did. So I'm hoping that's the case that this week I hate my picks. I don't like them. I came up with a few. I told you Army, Navy, and Steelers, Vikings. I went with them, but I'm not a lot of conviction. And then I bet on the Jaguars and Giants, guys. I mean, I almost bet on the Jets against the Saints, and then I changed my mind. But I just couldn't bring myself to bet on the Jags, the Jets, and the Giants in one week. And so I settled for this. The Chargers have COVID issues. Again, I'm only putting small money on it. The Giants, Daniel Jones probably not playing either. 10 points just seems like a lot to me
baby.
there.
Jake Fromm.
Jake Fromm covering 10. I don't know. The Chargers are Jekyll and Hyde, so maybe you get a Hyde week. I do actually like the Cowboys a lot at the Washington football team. I know Mike McCarthy made some headlines by saying, hey, we're going to win that game and kind of guaranteeing victory, which, you don't hear NFL coaches do ever anymore. Like that doesn't happen at any level of football anymore. Like coaches are terrified of bulletin board material. NFL, college, high school, I don't care what it is. You don't hear that anymore. But Mike McCarthy did it. And so to me, that means they got to be feeling pretty confident, right?
I don't understand what the big deal is. I mean, that doesn't bulletin board material doesn't work in the NFL. That works maybe in high school to some. In high school, I think it works. And I've been known to produce bulletin board material for teams and been thanked many times for it. But I don't think it matters in the NFL. And I agree. I don't understand. The Cowboys are getting healthy. And the football team maybe played a little bit over their heads. Besides Tampa Bay, what's their signature win on this streak? I'm not really sure. I know, look, don't get me wrong, what they've been able to do for the second straight year and play well when they have to play well and make a run toward the playoffs. But I love this Cowboys pick. I think this is when Dallas begins to take charge in this division. And a win in this game and a statement win kind of puts it away.
Yeah. And then the last one I'll mention here is the Jaguars. I actually, again, bet this earlier in the week when it was 10.5, and it's been moving steadily down. The Titans shouldn't be favored by that much against anybody right now. I mean, I know the Jaguars have been absolutely awful, and it's possible the Titans can cover it, but I'm going against Devin here, much to my dismay. The Titans, they're 8-4. They might be the worst 8-4 team I've seen in a long time. When Derrick Henry comes back, it might be a different story, but that defense is a mess right now. I just think that's too many points. They may find a way to win, but it's too many points.
As a Derrick Henry owner, with this to be in the last week of the regular season, and then I've already secured a bye, wouldn't it be sweet for him to come back in 2 weeks? That would my opponents would not like that very much.
I'm hoping that Dalvin Cook, and this is where fantasy makes you kind of a jerk, but like Dalvin Cook's coming. I'm a Madison owner, but I'm already pretty safely in the playoffs. Like I just need to avoid losing by 100. And I'm in the playoffs. So I'll bench Madison this week. Maybe he comes back too early and re-injures himself, and I can start Madison in the playoffs instead. So
I'm all about Dalvin Cook going out. One of my nemesis says Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, that's my jerk statement of the day. Guys, this is At the Book for Thursday, December 9th. Let's do final thoughts. Devin.
It's do or die time for the Saints. It really is. I mean, the next 2 weeks, if they don't look good either week, you can go ahead and close the door on the playoff hopes if you haven't already. So it's definitely like it's not even negotiable about winning or not. It's not even a must win. It's like you just got to do what you have to do. Go out there and win. So we'll see what happens. But I think the Saints are really on the brink of just punting on the season if the next 2 weeks don't go well.
Jim, we got a big football weekend ahead. We got high school state championships tomorrow and Saturday, and we got Army Navy. We got the NFL. What's your final thought for the weekend?
2 quick things. First off, as far as high school goes, I'm going to be in the Dome. What a big win for Hank Tierney last week in Ponchatoula. Win number 300 for him. He plays in the Dome this week for the 4th time in his career, looking for a second state championship as he takes Ponchatoula against Zachary. And Wayne Stein had a great interview. St. Charles, I'm telling you, that is a movie. If you have not listened to Data 2 from yesterday, you got to go listen to it and listen to the story of the St. Charles Comets. I'm telling you, that is going to be a Disney movie one day. And then my final thought is, as bad as I've been picking college the past few years, because I'm not great, I don't really play a lot of college, but I do a lot of studying and going through trends and looking at defense versus offense. I've been pretty good with bowls the past few years. In fact, a couple years ago, I came within a hair of winning this giant bowl pick'em challenge that I get in every year. So I'm looking forward to beating you guys' butts in this college pick'em thing we got coming up.
We'll give you something. I'm not very good in bowl games either, so you may be right about that. My final thought, I was going to go the same place. Ponchatoula Zachary, what a fantastic! You got a North Shore team against a Baton Rouge area team, which nothing against the rest of the state, but those are the most fun for me because I know so many people from both areas. Like, let's go to war. Let's see what happens in that 5A championship game Saturday night in the Dome. And then this feels like one of those NFL weeks where things go haywire to me. It just does. And maybe I'll be wrong, but like I'm on a lot of dogs this week. I even think this is really crazy. I didn't put it in big bucks. I think the Bears at least cover against the Packers on Sunday night. It just kind of feels like one of those weeks that things kind of go haywire. And so we'll see if I'm right about that. Cardinals Rams Monday night to wrap it up, and we'll be back on Monday at 4:00 with odds and ends to talk more about that one and to wrap up what happens over the weekend. So, hey, we encourage you one more time, go to NOLA.com/Caesars, get that free bet bonus, and you can get $100 in your pocket for doing nothing but going to NOLA.com/Caesars and signing up. So that's our final word. This has been At the Book. For Devin and Jim, I'm Zach. Have a good weekend, everybody.